a legend of one man who persuaded his friends to watch every Godzilla movie ever made. This world is on the brink of destruction. We need you now, Godzillavangelists! Godzillavangelists, a Geek Stew Network podcast, produced and hosted by Ryan Sargent, featuring Sam Schlenker and Joanna Brodecki. Well, welcome to Godzillavangelists. The reason for our long absence, well, I've been retooling the podcast, and now it's about getting good with God. Which God? Oh, don't worry about that. Just drink our plain soup from our big stone pot.
Is that the intro?
That is the intro.
Ryan.
Why are you trying to make me feel ashamed of myself?
I have a philosophy that in a world where everyone wants to feel less shame and shame is so bad, I think everyone should equally have a little more shame. It's a worldview I subscribe to.
Well, welcome back, Sam and Joanna.
Hey.
Woo. Toho.
Toho! Today we're covering entries 2 and 3 in the Godzilla anime trilogy. City on the Edge of Battle and The Planet Eater. And we couldn't do it without returning guest Greg Jones.
Hello.
Greg, you are our first returning guest ever.
I appreciate it. I really do.
I just figured we needed to have you back to try to balance out the black hole of negativity we create when anime is around. So we need you as our positive influence to keep us from descending straight into hell.
Sure.
And I dare you to defend these two. I dare you.
You know what? We're going to get to this, but I actually think that 2 was better than the first one. But we will...
I think 3 was the best.
Okay, interesting. We all have different opinions, but we'll save those till the final judgment.
Met fees for life. I would be in for Halloween, yeah.
Met fees. Anyway, I watched these movies with our friend Matt, who's also very familiar with anime, and he gave me some warnings that I wish I'd heeded. He knows a lot about the writer of these, Gen Urobuchi. I don't. But apparently he's known for emphasizing philosophy over plot, which is really an understatement when it comes to these.
He held it off until the third film, though. I mean, it was there, but it was very subtle, and then in the third film, it was very strong.
I might make a disagreement on it. I felt like half of all the movies was like philosophy, but especially the third one, you're right.
Well, especially they all felt like your freshman, roommate in the dorm building who just is like rambling on about philosophy while kind of high. Like that's what they all felt like. It's like, yeah, that's
yes,
I guess
they were all
that's
like
a smart
value
thing
heavy.
to say.
I guess specifically bringing in God must have been said 207 times in that third film.
So it's been a while since we did our episode on the first anime movie, so go back to that if you want all the details. We're not going to do a huge recap. The basic idea is there's a few survivors left on Earth after a big Godzilla attack, and there's a whole bunch more of them up on a spaceship. And that's pretty much all I can get my head around at this point. But I'm going to do the synopses as usual. You guys are welcome to jump in with your sound effects. After waking up from his slumber, Haru Sakaki reunites with the survivors of his team. They are aided by Miyana and Mina, survivors from a telepathic humanoid race called the Hotua. We don't know that till the third movie, even though they laid so many hints.
Sorry.
After some perils, they find the remnants of Mechagodzilla, a powerful weapon made of nanometal. Over the millennia, it has become a factory-like city, which the Bilu Saludo survivors wish to use to defeat Godzilla.
Yeah.
While preparing for the battle, the humans discover that the Bilu Saludo want to absorb the survivors into Mechagodzilla City.
Yum.
You've been absorbed, and
This is
you've
a
been
long
absorbed.
An intense battle follows, with Haru offered a difficult choice: sacrifice humanity to kill Godzilla, or destroy the nanometal and set Godzilla free. In the end, Haru destroys the nanometal, and the survivors are forced to flee to the Hotuat caves with Medfees. Also, Yuko got metal.
What?
I mean, that's basically what happens in the second movie.
Yeah,
Which one
that's
was
what
he? Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot who Yuko was. I was thinking you were referring to the place that Greg and I work.
That's true. There is a character named after your company.
Mm-hmm. The first time it was just one token woman, and then the second time it was twins.
Twins. Speaking of the characters, let's get into them.
Oh my god. Harwa is the biggest drama queen I've ever met in my life.
Oof.
I can't even imagine honestly what that recording booth was like. The man must have been exhausted.
That's true. He's really milking it all. But I think we also covered this last time. Greg said that was just sort of a trope of anime, that everybody's doing these very operatic feelings. Am I right about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything is really exaggerated and really caricatured. I mean, although I feel like I was more willing to give it a pass in that first film because it felt more emblematic of everything, whereas in this case, he becomes more of just another character, but just the only one that really seems to be affected emotionally by what's going on, like in a sincere way. So it comes across like he's whining all the time.
Yes, Greg's not down for it this time.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't introduced to that many characters in the second one. I guess like these Bilo Saludo guys sort of started to take more center stage, or the space dwarves as I called them, because basically they're space dwarves. They like building stuff, and they sound like people on Reddit. That's pretty much my takeaway on them. I guess we were introduced to like the Miana and Mina, which was the worst idea to give them matching names.
So bad. Who the hell did that?
I don't know. I think that's every guy's fantasy.
These women in this film.
Yeah, Joanna, I had a couple questions for you. One was how you felt about this, and then the second one was, at the end, we should dreamcast this movie with real actors.
Oh my god. Yep, let's just have some hot, needy women. Mm-hmm. Yeah, ew, boys. It's like, it killed me.
Yeah, we don't. I would say we get a little bit of their character in the second movie, but this time they're basically just like, we're innocent.
Like, kind of, one of them is cool, but the other one is still like, I need help, sleep with me.
But he is made very clear that he can't tell the difference, right?
Right.
Like, that's the weirdest part.
A major plot point in the third movie is that he realized that he mixed them up.
Right, but like you can't have both I mix you two up and also I got one of you pregnant in the same like movie. Like that is not, I don't like that.
I know these two kind of blend together, but we're getting into third movie.
Oh, I'm sorry. Spoilers.
That's all right. Yeah. I mean, they're not really the star of this one. The star of this one is Mechagodzilla City.
Yes, which, by the way, I laughed out loud when they introduced that because, so there's a scene, there's like a dramatic moment where they look over the cliff at all the metal buildings, and then one of them goes, wait, this isn't what I thought it was. This is something out of Mechagodzilla. This is, huge music cue, Mechagodzilla City. Which is like, you could have come up with something, I mean, like, that's right there. Like, call it something cooler than that. Have a pun. Like, this is Mechagodzilla City?
That's all it's got.
They're in a survival situation. They don't have time to get clever. By the way, I want to live in Mechagodzilla City.
Hell no.
Why?
No,
Just because of the name.
Also,
I hear rent is really cheap.
the rent's cheap, but the buildings can engulf you and you become one of them.
I guess another reason I want to live in Mechagodzilla City is that awesome techno music that played when
Oh
they
my god,
started
I was
it
just
up.
about to bring that up.
That was
the
my
movie
biggest
was, like,
note also.
So silent, and then suddenly, doom, 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 doom.
Yeah,
It was great.
I had two. There were
Beautiful.
two moments which I admit were my two favorite moments of the second movie, and one of them was the main title, and then that part in Mechagodzilla City, where like guest director James Cameron era Terminator 2 came in, and just gave it some sick techno.
Yeah, the title sequences for both of these may have been, for sure, top 5 moments of between both films.
I would agree. Yeah.
They were beautiful.
I cannot recall the title sequence for this one actually. What happened?
It was like
blue.
like a Terminator 2 like blue laser light, like a little
That was like-
Tron-y, actually.
Oh, I remember now with like the liquid metal.
Kind of like that
blowing
snake
around.
game. Yeah, but really cool. What about the suave scientist, you guys? Come on.
Oh, the
Those
professor?
golden locks. You know
Was he
I'm
in-
always into the professor. I'm always like, yeah, the professor.
Yeah,
Right, you're always talking him up.
I just don't care for when the professor is hot. Like I don't buy it. Like I'm sorry, it may be a personal bias, and it's
The
definitely a
professor's
bias.
always hot. The
No.
intelligence, you know?
That's right, but intelligence hot, not like that's another thing about anime, man. Is like I don't buy this like surfery blonde guy with long hair being like, hey, I just solved that thing that took thousands of years for that person to build. I just built it right now. What do you think?
He's wearing Toms. He's like, oh,
Yeah.
man.
Was he even in the first one? I
Yeah.
couldn't remember.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
being in the first one.
Oh,
Okay. He must have had a very small role. He really comes
Yeah.
to prominence, especially in the third one, but more in the second one as well.
Well, I think you have the benefit of a lot of people being dead.
That's true. By the way, I love the idea that just 3 guys showed up on the ship. Well, sorry, I have to back this up. So way too early in the movie, Haruo gives an inspiring speech that like makes most of the survivors agree, like, okay, we'll try to kill Godzilla again. And like just 3 of them go back. I gotta give them credit. They had to have some courage to not give into that peer pressure that there were literally just 3 of them taking that ship.
major
Yeah,
peer pressure
they're the
happening
real
on that
heroes.
planet. Little did they know, though, they were going to get fucked over later on. But
Right.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, no one is safe. I'm sorry I didn't say this when we were on the topic, but I loved the dumb reaction shots of Yuko being jealous of Mina, and then Mina being jealous of Yuko. Just the idea that adult women in this intense survival situation would act that way is so incredibly silly. Just like getting
Also-
offended.
Also over the most dramatic human I've ever met in my life. Like, why? Why?
If you
Him?
believe that they're all actually in 8th grade, it makes a lot more sense.
right. Yeah.
Well, the plan to kill Godzilla this time was apparently just throw everything in the kitchen sink at him.
They
it
whipped
was
that
just-
shit together so fast.
Like, there wasn't a singular plan. They're just like, we're going to shoot him with Vulture mechs, then nanometal particles, then liquid nanometal, then big guns and vibrations, and then we're going to, like, shoot him with a EMP.
My 2 things are like, A, how did they figure out what Mechagodzilla City could do so quickly in seemingly, a few hours? And then B,
Right.
I'm like, okay, well, I could write this script also by just making up a bunch of words and jumbling them together for 3 pages.
I remember we made fun of the plan in the first one, which my understanding of it up until the last second was that they were going to shatter Godzilla by matching his vibration like a big tuning fork.
Yep.
But I was just left because apparently this nanometal is like all consuming, like rapidly expanding, and it's like programmed for its number one task to kill Godzilla. So why didn't they just like dump a big bucket on Godzilla?
Right. With the liquid, why did they stop at? Was that all that they had to pour into there?
I guess that's the idea, but they have like a whole city of it. Like, why
Right.
not tell the city to like break down one of these apparently extraneous buildings? Yeah.
On the other hand, if they did this. By the way, I apologize. There's like a weed whacker or something outside my window, so I apologize for that. Surprise, everyone. There's gonna be some weird noise. But yeah, like I don't know why. Like I don't know if I want them to keep talking about the plan though, because actually half this movie was them discussing their plan and not even doing it. It was talking about it, and that is. I'm gonna just level with you guys and say I didn't like this one, or the third, but especially this one. And there's a part where they're discussing this. They're laying out the plan, and again, they don't talk about like maybe like why they should do this plan. It's just what the actual plan of action is gonna be, step by step by step, and then also bringing up like completely ridiculous things like, well, should we do it if the people will get fatigued? It's like, what movie is like? When do you ever bring up whether people will get fatigued during a movie? Like, God, this you've just been talking about this for half an hour. Like, it's a movie. You guys are gonna get tired, and then someone's like, well, we'll do it because we have faith. And it's like, then why did you even bring it up? I have a real problem with this, guys.
That did suck, and I'm not going to by any means call this movie good. But the reason that I liked this one a little better is because it was clear from the first few minutes what was going on and what their plan was in a basic sense. Where, okay, we have gathered ourselves in the Hotua and met them, and here's one idea of what humanity could be. And now we're going to Mechagodzilla, and here's another idea of what it could be, and we're going to try to kill Godzilla while pondering these two ideas. So that was straightforward, and it made sense to me, and I was able to follow it and appreciate the things that were done well, which were admittedly not too many, but that's the gist of why I liked it more.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I could say, just to add some additional stuff to it, so kind of like the first one, I think the problem here is that what's happening, like in the text of it, like the actual what's happening is not as strong as it could be, which is probably what's bumping for a lot of people. Because I think ultimately the movie's more concerned with the analogies and the metaphors about society, technology, and how we interact with them. And, they were probably just less successful in boiling down to so that what they're actually doing is super entertaining, because you get a lot of technical jargon which is never really well explained, so it just sounds like they're just saying stuff.
Right.
And they're saying more stuff and making up more stuff. But ultimately, I think this one, which I noticed, where the first movie is about humans and kind of their approach, which I'm assuming is more emotional and emotion. And this is one of the main reasons why they're trying to come back to Earth in the first place. It's because of their emotions. They offer some other reasons, but they're saying, well, emotions can save us. This is what it is, and that's part of the reason why our main character is so emotional. But now, in this movie, the Bill Saluto kind of take over as the main thrust, and they're saying, well, logic and science is what will save us. This is the thing that makes the most sense. And a lot of it is really focused on what that means and where that can take you, and is extreme. I think that's the point, that we're going to extremes here. We went extremely emotionally before, and now we're going extremely logically and technologically in this one. And what could be the potential fallacies of that, how far that can go, and why you may not want to put everything into technology and logic.
I can get on board with that, because I actually think there's some interesting ideas here, but they're not executed very well. And
they're just too broad. They're so sweeping.
Yeah.
They're not grounded in anything.
And as Sam is fond of saying, they're not earned. They don't give you the emotional grounding
right.
to go off and start talking about these ideas that are smart and do make you think. But it's like, I'm not reading a speculative science book. I'm watching a Godzilla movie.
Yeah, they just didn't feel earned. And I think, too, because I wasn't particularly drawn in at all by any of the characters, except for in the third one, Metfis, is it? And the scientists were the only two that I liked. So I didn't really care to be on their side. I was like, well,
Yeah, that's definitely a problem, which comes to its boiling point in the third one, which we'll get to in just a minute. Are there any lingering thoughts on City at the Edge of Battle?
No, I wrote down that like there's so many rules. That's I think a big problem is like to me nobody talks about anything that isn't that basically everything's exposition in all these movies. Maybe the third has a little more going on, but it drives me crazy that it's just like the entirety of most of the second one is just more rules being told to us, and it's like it just makes me think of like being a little kid and like someone's dad who thinks rules are fun. Like it's just like they just keep laying on more things, and it's like, well, actually this behaves this way, but you would think it would behave this way, but actually this metal does blah 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 because kind of this reason, and it's like that's great, guys. I mean, listen, I know that this isn't my kind of movie, and I'm just like so,
right.
But so take this with a grain of salt. But like that kind of stuff, like there is nothing more boring to me than learning why things work the arbitrary way they do for actually like an hour. And I think a big thing is that I don't think these movies in any of them, I don't think they quite justify 3 movies or like these ideas that are in there. I think
it should have been 2.
Yeah.
I'm worried there's going to be more. I think there are going to be more.
There is a weird hint at the end of the third one.
Yeah.
But they also didn't do very well at the Japanese box office, so
Oh, really?
we'll see. Yeah.
They're also pretty short. This film, the issues with it reminds me of more recent seasons of Game of Thrones where timelines are just off. Like the professor is like, I researched their bodies and now I know everything. It's like, again, how did all this shit happen in a day? And then also everyone survive, like from the first to second film, a shit ton of people survived. Like in the first 20 minutes it's like, oh no, I'm alone, and then it's like, actually all 30 of us are all still here. Like
right.
It just ruins the drama of it. It's speeding through stuff and not having any kind of realistic grounding in it. But yeah,
true, there's just no impact for a lot of these things.
Yeah.
And like
that
this
is
is hardly unique to this movie, but they rush through the Haruo Yuko romance so fast. They don't give them much reason to like each other. They don't give them much reason to grow closer.
Right, it doesn't feel like a real relationship. It's just like, oh, again, here's this classic hot chick that he can make out with and then feel sad about. But there's
they're leading up to their kiss. They're discussing the plan. Like it's them, her being like, do you think it'll work? And he's like, yes, because blankety blankety blank. And she's like, oh well, I'm gonna make out with you.
That's what gets people horny in this universe.
Well, right.
Also,
rules.
when she said grandpa, I was like, are they related? What's happening?
Yeah, that was odd.
She didn't say your grandpa. She was like, when grandpa died. I'm like, okay, so now they're close because they're cousins. Like, I thought him and Metfeast were gonna make out at one point too when he whispered the name. I was like, all right, here we go.
There was more, I guess maybe also in the third, but there was a lot more kind of vaguely homoerotic stuff with Metfees. That was wild, especially when he leaned over and whispered a thing in his ear, and it was like, and then he's like, oh, well, what? Like that.
He's like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there was more reason for Haruo to be with Metfees than any other character in this movie.
I think they should have gotten together. I would have been down for it.
My last note is that at one point, and you sort of talked about this, the professor mentions Mina and Miana smearing their secretions on people, which I was just like, stop. Don't say that. Don't say it like that.
I don't like that. That's like Mothra silking all over again. Not a fan. So in this, by the way, just out of curiosity, watching the second one, we all assumed Mothra was going to be in the third, right?
Oh, yeah. I was really
From
ready
the first
for
second. I thought she would be in the second one.
Yeah. Honestly, once the twins showed up.
That's what they're holding out for.
Is that what...
Well, we got to close out on this one. We're running out of time to talk about City on the Edge of Battle. So let's get everybody's judgments down. So if you don't know how we rate these movies, we judge them as... this is like a religion to us. We are the Godzillavangelists. So we decree whether each movie should go to Godzilla Heaven, Purgatory, or Hell. I'll start. I talked a little bit about my reasons before. I like this one more than the other two. Not by that much, but I'm apparently in a total disagreement because I thought it kept the worst of the babbling and illogical decisions away. I thought it was all on a track, even if that track wasn't the most interesting thing in the world. And so I was like, okay, I can get on board with this conflict and sort of follow it very strongly. So I'm tempted to give this one the barest reach of purgatory, although you can talk me out of it.
I would send the first hour to way far in, and then I would say only tune in for the last 30 minutes so you can watch the third one. But you do not need the first hour by any means.
I guess, I kind of am tempted to say purgatory because its biggest sin is that I find it just kind of dull. And that, like, hell is reserved for, like, the bad, like, fun bad to me. I don't know.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
But the problem with all of them is I just don't find them interesting enough or, like, visually appealing enough. I just find them really bland looking, and I don't care for the way they look either.
Yeah.
So I guess it's kind of like the least exceptional version of hell. It's just like, yeah, it's just it's there. Let's not talk about it.
Basic hell. Greg, what is your judgment?
Well, I kind of looked at it as if this was like a series and these were episodes. Like the whole thing was, say, 9 episodes, and these were just more episodes. I felt like the first one kind of had something to justify its existence, and the third one has some really awesome moments. We haven't gotten to, but we'll get to. But I have to compare it to all of them. And this one in between, it's just more content, more story. It's hard for me to get excited about it, but I didn't mind that I watched it either. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's like that middle Pirates movie. It's like necessary.
It totally
not
is.
good.
Oh my god. But I kind of like that one.
You need it to push the plot along, but it's not nearly as good.
I'll defend Pirates 2, though. I actually, it's completely lightweight, and I really enjoyed every moment of it. And then you walk out, and you've forgotten everything that happened except for hamster
No, Sam,
wheel
it's
fights.
awful. It's so boring.
Well, that's my take on the fourth one. The fourth one is my pet baby.
Is that with Penelope Cruz?
Yeah, it's so fun. It's so... Not one actor is trying to rein it in during that movie, and it's so fun. They're all just trying to outact each other, and it's amazing. Anyway, we're not talking about pirates. We're talking about Godzilla. So Greg, I don't think you gave a final grade. Heaven, hell, or purgatory?
I think you got to interpret what I said and put it where you think it fits.
Who are you, Metfees?
Exactly.
Purgatory?
Exactly.
Light purgatory?
I would put that in purgatory if I was forced to quantify that.
Okay.
All right. Okay, on to the Planet Eater.
Yes. I just watching the second one, I was like, I'm bored, blah, 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 I'm bored, blah, blah. And then watching the third, I was like, what is even happening? Like, you know how sometimes with the earlier films, I'm like, I loved this film, didn't care for the Godzilla part, but loved whatever weird human interaction character plot was being built. So the Netflix stuff, I just was like, yes, we are going there. He reminded me of this vampire character from a book I really like. So I was just like very on board with him kind of taking the helm of the ship.
Were you on board with him creepily grabbing Child Haru's hand, which reminded me of a Michael Jackson type of thing?
Oh my god. Oof, that doc. Well, because he's an alien, so I didn't get creepy. I just got weird ethereal vibes from him.
Okay, fair enough. All right, here we go. I'm going to get the synopsis for the Planet Eater out of the way. Haruo's actions cause fallout in space, where the Bilo Saludo start a mutiny in an attempt to punish him. On Earth, he's hailed as a martyr, which Metfees uses to lure the survivors into becoming acolytes of his cult. The professor sends Haruo away from the caves, where he becomes intimate with Mina. Meanwhile, Metfees and his brethren summon Ghidorah, who kills almost literally everyone. Ghidorah then begins to kill Godzilla, while Metfees replaces his own eye with a magic amulet. He uses
So
the
cool.
amulet
Bloody
Sorry,
hands.
I forgot about sounds.
I was wondering
But-
where they were.
Okay, here's the eye.
That's his eye going up.
Sam used the same sound effect for Mechagodzilla sucking everyone in.
No, it's the reverse sucking is sticking in an eye. Or maybe he,
Okay.
yeah, I don't know. I guess he had to take the eye out and put another thing in, so I guess it can be that same
Right.
sound.
Yeah.
It's like a tire change. He uses the amulet to guide Ghidorah and psychically wear down Haruo. Eventually, Mina and the professor use Mothra's egg to contact Haruo and bring him out of the trance. Haruo breaks the amulet and kills Metphis, while Godzilla kills Ghidorah. Months later, Haruo realizes that human nature is cyclical and sacrifices himself to destroy all the remaining advanced technology on Earth, thereby preventing Ghidorah from rising again.
Sacrifice is like a strong word. I don't know if I would call it that. Felt a little selfish.
It did, but we'll come. I think that's how it was supposed to be played.
But yeah, in hearing you play that, like talk about that, I think the reason why I liked the third film is because in the second film, when I'm like, Haruo's the leader, we should all get behind him, we're supposed to support him, I'm like, no, this guy sucks. But when they're like, Metphis is smart and that's why he is doing these things, I'm like, yes, he is smarter than all these people. Like I can believe that. I'm like, he's clearly smarter than all of these people. And
So you're really just a Metphis fangirl.
yeah, like he's just doing his shit. And then also I thought Ghidorah looked super cool.
Yeah, I agree.
And I liked that he wasn't screaming. I liked that there wasn't noise. It was like silent kind of.
That,
And he just
yeah, I'm in agreement too. That this had to me the two most like interesting moments, or like kind of like cool moments of probably any of them, because definitely him wrapping around that ship, and my favorite part actually being when he comes out of the like cauldron and there becomes
Yes.
like an Evil Dead scene of everyone's limbs falling off. That's great. I mean, that's like really great.
Yeah, that scene was really well done with the summoning of Ghidorah.
and there wasn't techno music this time for the like for Mecha. It was like this slow, sad music as they silently fought. I really liked it.
Yeah, the summoning of Ghidorah I really like. As a Godzilla fan, I'm always looking for like interesting new ways for humans to interact with monsters. Like that's a big part of what makes these movies for me, is like how can they intertwine something so huge and unknowable with the human experience. And I really like the idea of a Ghidorah death cult. Like it made a lot of sense based on Ghidorah's character, and I haven't seen a spin like that before in these movies. So I'm like, damn, that's cool. I was not the hugest fan of the design with Ghidorah like having no body and like a bunch of spider eyes, but it
I
worked
loved it.
all right.
I thought it was so cool. He was like coming out of nowhere. That God call happened fast too. That one dude was like, "I believe in God," and then that was his only line, and he just fucking stuck with it.
Right,
150%.
he was ready.
He committed.
That was definitely the best part. And I actually, the first half of this movie was the part I enjoyed the most of any of these movies, but the second half
Yeah.
killed it for me. But yeah, we had an interesting setup too, with Metaphes backing Haruo into a corner, and then something similar happening on the spaceship where the Bila Saluto were backing everyone else into a corner, which turned out to be a red herring. They both kind of turned out to be red herrings, but it got your attention rolling until the central event of Ghidorah being summoned happened.
Yeah, and when the scientist was like, "I know what's up, but I'm not going to say anything." I don't know. I mean, it was
Yeah.
all kind of obvious plot stuff, but I was just more. Anytime a cult's involved, I'm just like maybe a little more interested.
Can I point out, actually, I have one other favorite part that I laughed out loud during, which is just during Metphis' like kind of like mind trip where he's taking, trying to break him down.
Amazing.
There's a part where he mentioned something about like Haruo's like humanity, and then and then it has a flashback to him as a kid, and then like his struggle, and then it shows a shot of him being handed a like cigarette box that just says meat.
I laughed at that too.
That is the other best part.
I thought, how about two of my favorite parts? Obviously, the soup moment. Were you guys watching with subtitles at all? My roommate was like on a call, so I had it on, and the subtitles, "I am soup," You are soup. We are soup, but we are not soup. It just was such beautiful writing. I thought, really, really strong.
Yeah, that was a great out of context screenshot right there.
Yeah, and then just the straight up Harry Potter moment of them being like, "Here are flowers. We are your parents. Go be hope." Like, this movie was Harry Potter. It was like a cult movie, and then it became Harry Potter.
It was a little Harry Potterish with him going through, not literally, but like a resurrection.
Well, and they had the suit, like, with the liquid thing. Also, at one point when they were like, when he was talking about all his time is time and math is eternity, whatever. They just zoomed in. They had this like board of equations, and they zoomed in on E = MC squared. And like, of all the crazy shit they talk about, that was their like, we'll pick this very simple equation.
I actually have an insight into why that is. It's a Japanese cultural thing to villainize Albert Einstein and blame him for what happens with the atomic bombing.
Cool.
So they're calling this like the origin of evil, like the origin of what created Godzilla was Albert Einstein writing on a chalkboard.
All right, well, within context, I'm like, all right, that's cool. But out of context, I was like, come on, you guys. That's all we got. Any other love for the film? Come on. No one else loved it?
No, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I have a couple of things I could add, and then I think I'm going to have to get ready to run soon. I have to go to the doctor.
No, I'll yeah.
But, so, I think with meth fees, because it took me some time to, like, sort all of my feelings out about him, because one of the weird challenges is that they're making a point about religion with this particular character and his thoughts, although this is technically more like a cult, but because it's the only religion is just this cult and nothing else, it kind of shoehorns the two of them in together, where you can't really separate them. And there's this thing that comes up, and I was initially worried in the first movie where the way you typically see it is that, like, there's this situation with religion where there's just the manipulator and the manipulated, and that's kind of one of the main ways they interpret it. So if there's somebody there who's religious, or in particular like a priest, and that person's going to be a villain at some point. Like, just immediately, like, I see him, it's like, oh, they're going to make this guy a villain somehow. And what I initially liked about some of the other films that they didn't do that, and that they didn't make him to be out to be a creep. And so now learning that, no, he is a creep, it colors my thoughts from him from the other films as well, where I can't separate the two. But in this case, I mean, everything he was saying was true. It's not like Ghidorah is made up. Like, it's a real thing. They did the real ceremony, and they summoned the real guy to show up and do terrible things. It's just, but he lied to get them to that point, which seems like it should have been unnecessary.
I think it was necessary because they needed to kill all those people as like a human sacrifice for Ghidorah, or at least that's the impression that I got.
Right, but you can convince people to sacrifice themselves without lying to them. Like, that can be done. That's been done.
That's the version of the movie I actually want to see. Come to think of it, it's just him. Oh, sorry. It's just him, like, just talking them into it.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's a real phenomenon. It's not a fantasy phenomenon.
True.
So the idea that the only way that he could do it would be to lie to everyone, when we have all these other characters being honest about themselves to a fault, and then their faults being shown by, like, how far they are to devote to, like, this one aspect. And then this one is not quite the same. Like, we don't get that same high level thought process behind what Mephies is doing. And it also colors some of the other stuff where, like, he does seem to care about Haruo, and Haruo does seem to care about him. They do seem to have, like, genuine affection for each other, which stands in contrast to the fact that he was manipulating literally everyone except for his father the entire time. Like, it doesn't seem to add up for me.
Yeah, I feel like he, like, appreciates Haruo, but they just have different end goals, so that's never gonna allow for it to grow beyond that.
Right.
Well, there was tried to kind of, like, ham fist, like, a reason, which was, like, something about, like, the reason Haruo was perfect was because he had the most hate for Godzilla or something, which doesn't particularly work when the last movie
Right.
ended with him choosing to let Godzilla live to stop technology. So
Right.
like that was a little, but that was kind of like that seemed to be the reason they were giving, was like that was why he focused on Harawa, was like, because you will see eye to eye with me because look at all this hate you have for this monster.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like that's the thing, that Netflix had such a dogmatic religious viewpoint that everything was skewed from his perspective. He was like, look, we learned that there's a finite universe. We're all going to die someday. So why not die as gloriously as possible and just let Ghidorah eat all of
A
us?
beautiful demise.
Yeah, which is very difficult to get on board from a human perspective.
But like I said, I don't know if that's true. Like, I think we've seen it. We've observed this exact thing happening when people, like, knowing that they're drinking something that's going to kill themselves and then let them meet their maker.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. They could have all willingly been like, "Hail Ghidorah, kill us all."
Yeah, because we saw with the Bill of Saludo, they did the
Yeah.
same thing. They made the same decision of themselves.
For me, I was just so on board with the
Mm-hmm.
carnage that I was willing to give it a pass. I was like, "Yeah,
But not to
getting all their limbs chopped off."
Yeah, I think
Out of
because I like a
curiosity.
bad guy, I was like, yeah, just let him be evil. He's lying. Love it.
Ryan, how did you feel about the Ghidorah Godzilla fight though?
It was the most boring monster.
I figured you'd say that. Where it's just
Whereas I loved how quiet it was and slow. You're like, this is bullshit.
I mean, like, at some point, I'm not one of those people that's like,
That bite though.
I'm not one of those people that's like, don't even put humans in a Godzilla movie, just monster fights. But I come for that action in some way. I want to see like something cool happen.
But-
And it was just Godzilla like hanging there like,
Yeah, Godzilla's standing there while like Ghidorah teethes on his arm for a
Godzilla
little
was
while.
so slow in this movie. He never turned. He just like, right? He always looked like he was moving
Yeah.
in slow motion and never big steps. But
well, didn't they intimate in the first movie that he was like basically a plant now? He was like part tree or
oh,
something.
right. He's too. But Ryan, did you not love how like they did turn the movie at the end so that we're like, oh, we hate Godzilla, but then in the last 10 minutes we're like, no, wait, now we want him to win and we love him? I don't know.
Right.
Do we love him now?
Anyway, to go back to the most boring monster fight of all time, on a related note, I was also very disappointed with Mothra's flash in the pan cameo. I was like, yes, Mothra's gonna get in the mix. That'll be fun.
Yeah, what?
But
But
she shows up for like 2 seconds as a spirit vision
that was so weird.
in
And
in a silhouette. I was very let
especially
down.
they mentioned the egg like so many times in the second movie and
Mm.
to not play any of it out. But they're just holding out for the future films. So.
Probably the biggest criticism you could make, or I could make as a Godzilla movie, because I have my criticisms of it as a movie, and it's just not my kind of storytelling whatsoever. But the biggest thing I can say is just there isn't a whole lot of Godzilla in this series.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a lot of monster fighting, or even like it's not really about the monsters. It to me, like, again, it is very odd to be like to set it up to this big monster battle. Or I guess set up to humans defeating a Godzilla, and then it's going to be these two monsters fighting, and in both cases, just kind of stab you in the back for hoping for that, because then what you get is again like kind of a weird mind trip, which wasn't uninteresting, but yeah, actually a monster fight that just literally was Ghidorah holding on to Godzilla's arm for a little bit.
Well, they were doing a ton of talking. There was like so much talking happening and they
That's-
were not very far away.
That is correct.
There was very little of interest in the back half of this movie. Like, the midpoint is Ghidorah getting summoned, and from there until pretty much the last 10 minutes, we're locked into the same scenario
Yes.
with extremely slow changes.
Also, really quick, after the fight, when he does all those cool looking explosions that go into space, it just flips very quickly to like Haruo's awake now and everything's fine, but there's never any like Godzilla goes away back to sleep moment, They're never
Right.
like he's gone for now. But yeah, okay, back to the ending.
I guess that was the comparison made in the ending where Miana's like, oh, Godzilla's like a earthquake or a hurricane, which is not unique to this movie. That's been a comparison going back to 90s Godzilla movies, where like he's like a force of nature that you just have to like make peace with.
Right.
But it starts out fine because Haruo starts to kind of live out one of my childhood fantasies and be married to one of Mothra's acolytes.
But he definitely had a better connection with the other sister.
Right. That was
Yeah, you
strange.
can't tell them apart, and you couldn't say that it was that he knows the one who got naked because they both got naked.
They both got naked, right?
That I
You
was
know,
so,
They
that was
changed her
awful.
To touch
hair, I
on
guess. That what?
Oh, just that like skeeved me out so hard. I like the whole
Oh,
thing.
that's-
Again, it all feels so slimy to me. And when it was like, yes, we must control, heal through our life contact, and then it's like she gets
Oh my
naked,
God.
and I was like, are you
Connect.
kidding me? And then
And she
when-
was like, I'm scared. Oh, God.
yeah.
Which
Well,
12-year-old boy was writing that scene?
Again, you say that, but it was probably a 40-year-old, 12-year-old boy.
Totally. Well, no, I was about to say that, but I didn't want to bring myself to have to. But thank you for saying it for me. She took her clothes off within like half of a second.
Right. I'm all for both naked comfort cuddling
No.
and sexual freedom. But nobody should be like, I think you're feeling bad, so I want to have sex with you so you don't feel bad. That's like, that was the skeevy part.
Well, and
for
again,
me.
just the fact that it's 100% through the lens of this 12-year-old, 45-year-old man. That's,
that too.
it's not like her doing it for fun because it's just like, and that they were, again, they're cool and they're fucking smart and they never get any agency. Like, their people have been surviving with Godzilla for forever, but it's never about them. I want to see their movie, just the two of them, their origin story, and just no outside boys involved.
Their orgy story.
Origin. Did I say
The
origin?
orgy story is more likely to be
Oh,
made.
God.
By the way, guys, I have another thing I wrote down, which is that Metfees is actually a Godzilla evangelist.
He totally, well, he's a
100% is.
Ghidorah evangelist.
Totally is.
He's a Ghidorah
Oh,
evangelist.
I guess you're right. Well, does that mean? I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that means Haruo becomes a Godzilla evangelist. In a way,
He does at the end.
So that ending, I just want to say, I'm sure that it like, I feel like everyone's disappointed by it. Talking with Greg, he was telling me that he was as well. The biggest thing to me was like that ending of like, I must destroy, everything's cyclical. I must destroy this technology. Like, my first thought was it just felt really hypocritical because like, we didn't ask for that technology. Like that was made clearly because the like creators of the film thought it was cool and like sci-fi is cool and we should put this in the future. And sick nanotechnology. Like we get some cool stuff where the metal engulfs you, and then at the end it's like, we should stop this because it's the root of the evil. And it's like, you guys put it in there because you wanted to make it that way. Like,
Right,
don't
right.
preach at us. Like,
Right.
do something you think is so rad and then preach at us about, like, no, that's the problem. It's
Now
like,
we heard it.
Can't.
On top of that, it has one of my least favorite tropes, which is an unmotivated sacrifice, or because the professor seems pretty cool.
Ugh, thank
He's
you.
like an honest, like
He's
straight
Gilligan's
dealing
Island.
guy.
He's just straight up Gilligan's Island.
Yeah, he literally is. That's why I called him the professor. I took to calling Yuko Marianne
Right.
at one point when I was watching.
I
it with
call her
Matt.
Sleeping Beauty.
But anyway, he makes no attempt to talk it out with a professor. Like, this is what I experienced, and like I think it's for the best that we don't get involved with this anymore. No attempt at that.
Again, his Harry Potter
There's-
moment. Yeah, just keeps it to himself.
Yeah, there's no attempt to see if he can remote fly the thing away, because there's so many things that they can remote control. Like, why not put Yuko in there and just fly it out into the middle of nowhere? Which, like, I could see it if, like, you're trying to motivate, like, there's nothing left for Harlow, but he's literally going to become a father. He's just orphaning his kid.
Right. He
To
was
make
like,
a
for sure,
point.
let's sleep together and be together. Also, no, I'm just kidding. Actually, I'm going to leave.
Yeah, no, it was not good.
Yeah.
It was not.
Also, the fact that, as Sam brought up multiple times, they spent an hour of the second film coming up with this huge strategy to take over Godzilla. And then we're supposed to expect that just one of those vultures or whatever, when they needed 3 and this whole big buildup and a harpoon before, that just one of them will be enough to do anything? That makes no logical sense.
Well, I don't think he was expecting it to do anything. He was literally just
Killing himself?
kamikaze.
Right. But again, then you
What a
got to
waste.
cut to the twin, who is like, "What the fuck? Like you just made me a single mom for like very little reason."
And the professor who's like, hold the phone. I actually was onto something and now we just wasted. Was there a 2-minute ending to this film after the credits, or did my Netflix...
There was.
Okay.
There's a little flash in the pan moment where it's like Haruo is now like a secondary god.
Worst
Like
god
he's
ever.
achieved deitydom by killing himself.
Yep.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
He's the worst.
he's everyone's hero, and then the next movie is those people grow up and summon him, and 3 big holes in the sky show up, and he has 3 long-necked heads that creep down and strangle a ship.
All right, it's judgment time. So after the last movie, I was feeling pleasantly mediocre about the whole thing, and the first half of this one, like I said, was building me up. So I was almost ready to end on something I could perhaps call good, but it just left a lot of potential on the table. Like, for all this build-up, the end of the movie just petered out. It just sort of disappeared, and I feel like the writer wanted to dictate the results first and then come up with some half-assed way to get there, which is, I realize, might be throwing rocks at glass houses to an extent, but he aimed so high that I feel like if you're gonna aim that high, you really gotta work to get there.
That's your verdict?
So you would say hell?
Oh, I forgot to give the
You
verdict.
had such a smug
yeah.
satisfaction. You're like, "Yep, I just laid it down. I showed them," and we're all just like, "Is that a heaven?"
We're like, so...
Why was I smug? I was just.
You just had a
No, you were just so decided.
yeah,
Whereas when I was
okay,
like,
all right.
yeah. We both are like,
Okay.
and you just are like, "Yep, laid it
we
down."
on the spot are like, yeah, I think. And you're like, listen, guys, here's what's up. But wait, so is it hell?
I was giving you an opportunity to jump in. Anyway, yes, it's hell. This is Godzilla hell.
Interesting.
All right, I vote heaven for any of the
What?
Netflix parts. Because I just was like, yes, this cult. Yes. Like, again, when Greg was like, I don't know, why couldn't he be honest? I'm like, that character isn't supposed to be honest. If he was honest, I'd be like, what a sap. No. But the sex stuff and anything relating to Haruo with the girl, like the girls on their own are great, but just anything with Haruo, I just hate him. So it's just like hell. And yeah, Sam, not even fun hell, just like,
Yeah.
ugh, awful Cole Sprouse hell.
Cole Sprouse.
Yeah.
Oh, the worst one.
Only Cole Sprouse Riverdale hell, you know?
Yeah.
For a second, I thought you said cold sprouts.
Yeah, cold
and I'm
sprouts.
like, huh, that's an interesting comparison. Cold Brussels sprouts, they are pretty
No, but
hellish.
yeah, Metzby's, I liked him. He's one of my favorite people we've met in the many movies we've watched. And I like the idea of the Bella Saluta, but that was the second one. But yeah, Haruo I just fucking hate. He's just such a sap.
He's a sap. He's a schmuck.
So whiny.
Yeah.
He does not
Yeah,
deserve to be a leader of anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think heaven is still fine for this movie. Even with the thoughts that I had about it. I mean, I loved the sense of dread and scope when Ghidorah emerged. Like, I mean, it could have been cooler, but I definitely felt it. I felt it, and I felt the scale and scope of him coming down, or her, I don't know the gender of Ghidorah.
2 of the heads are a him.
Okay. So intersex, right? Is that the idea? Okay. And
That's the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then, when Godzilla fights back and the scope of his blasts out into space, like those shots, you really feel
Those shots were.
yeah, they're really spectacular because we're really wide, and then we can see that beam cutting through. Like it does feel epic, even if ultimately, I would say it was unfortunate that all Ghidorah really did was bite Godzilla and then leave his mouth there until it lost the fight. So those aspects of it, I think, were really stunning and alone worth the price of admission.
I think I would probably put it. I will say, this one had my favorite moments of any of them. Again, I enjoyed it more, even though it's not good. I don't think any of them are, in my opinion. But at least it had, again, Ghidorah summoned and lopping off people's limbs. That was cool. The most interesting and best 2 minutes of any of these. So I want to give it that. Mm-hmm. I think so I'm tempted to put it into Dylan Sprouse Purgatory, but sorry, that's stupid. But I think it also goes in hell for me. I think that is good. That's a good 2 minutes, but I just can't it's just not. I just don't think it's a good movie. I don't think any of these are. I don't think this one is. Guys, let's make it stop. No more of these. Yeah. I didn't sign up for this.
Maybe it's that I was really bored with the other two, and that once they introduced this cult shit, I was like, okay, this is something I could watch and find fun in.
Yeah, it was less boring than the other two.
Yeah, I saw.
I'll give you that. I mean, again, the first half of this movie was the best 45 minutes of any of these movies.
I think this movie is. I saw Hamilton on a Tuesday night when it was all understudies, and the guy playing Hamilton was awful. So this movie is like the rest of the product surrounding him was fine, but he just pulled it down so much that it didn't ultimately make sense or work.
Got it. Makes sense to me. So this hopefully brings an end to the anime movies. It did seem like they were teasing more, but again, the success seems lacking. They didn't make money at the Japanese box office. The buzz I get from Godzilla fans is that they really didn't like it in general. So I think we're safe for now.
Yay.
On to Matthew.
Yes.
I've never seen it.
That is next.
It's really been hyped up a lot.
But before we do that, you guys have been talking a lot about your Dreamcast, so let's have it. What if we were going to make a live-action version of these movies for some reason? Who would be who?
Okay.
Well,
we've established Cole Sprouse, right? Cole Sprouse is the hero.
He's truly the only option.
Who's Metfees? Who are you putting as?
It is Orlando Bloom.
Oh God!
Taking an evil Legolas, turning Legolas evil.
Just out of the gate, this is a movie I wouldn't watch. Like just with those two casting decisions.
No, it can't be Orlando Bloom. Orlando Bloom's too much of a pretty boy.
It's gonna be Benedict Cumberbatch for sure.
Yeah. Again, and now I'm just getting Con vibes, which. Ugh. All right, fine. I don't have a good answer for Metfees.
What about Paul Dano? No, he wouldn't work. He's too dark.
Jared Leto, perhaps.
Oh, I hate him.
Man, why do I not like any actors that are being named for this? Maybe that's the problem. Is it's just that's all we can like. Can we just give the lead? What's the guy the nanotechnology scientist man who becomes metal? Can that be The Rock? Can we just have him be The Rock?
Yeah, that's an easy Rock.
Okay,
right there.
cool. So we have someone I like.
Rock would love to be on board. I think this movie, the third, could be a live action film, but I wouldn't. We can't have the build up to it. We just have to get there.
Who plays the twins? Is it Lindsay Lohan as both?
The twins, Lindsay Lohan. Doesn't Scarlett Johansson always play these roles?
Yeah.
Right. ScarJo doing some cultural appropriation.
Right.
Why not?
I like that. I mean, I don't like it, but I like it.
You're in agreement that is how Hollywood would cast it.
Yeah, that would happen. It makes sense.
And that she would accept the part.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to see Bryan Cranston as the professor.
So we're making him an old professor. A professor who actually could be a scientist?
It's got to be, I'm sorry, but it's got to be Chris Pine. He has the heart. He has the looks. And he, of all the Chris's, can act the best. So it's Chris Pine, Donald Glover, ScarJo, The Rock. I mean, that sounds like a hit.
We're making it work. Now, what if we were making a cookie cutter animated Disney movie out of this? I feel like it would be all about Harlow learning to be confident in himself. That would be the thrust. If this was a Disney movie.
And Metfeast would become more like Rasputin from Anastasia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he would have a song. It was like, Ghidorah is coming to rise today.
Those little birds from Godzilla would like suddenly... I thought those guys would cool. They would like be his henchmen. And one of them would be like...
One of them would be old what's-his-face. Who's the voice of Iago?
Danny DeVito.
Gilbert Gottfried.
Gilbert Gottfried would voice one of them.
But how are you gonna get the souls for Ghidorah to eat?
Oh my god.
That's my terrible Gilbert Gottfried. Somehow I didn't peak on that. I'm proud of myself.
No, it's pretty good. It was pretty good.
As you hinted, next time we're covering that great abominable beast, Godzilla 1998. Can't put it off any longer. But I think this episode is running long, but we hope you had a good time. Leave a comment or a subscription somewhere. We're now on Spotify, so it should be easier than ever to find us.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Well, thanks for joining us
Thank
again,
you for having
Greg.
me.
It was lovely to have you lightening the mood.
We'll see you back for the next 3 animated ones, because we know.
Oh, yeah. When they do the prequel trilogy.
Sure thing.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, and bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Godzillavangelists, a Geek Stew Network podcast, is brought to you by me, Ryan Sargent, and my friends, Joanna Brodecki and Sam Schlenker. All our incredible music is composed by Robert Mai, and our wonderful artwork is drawn by Cassidy Stone. Special thanks to our families, friends, and the wonderful artists who made the movies we talked about today. Godzillavangelists is a satirical, critical work, not affiliated or endorsed by Toho, Legendary Pictures, or anyone behind the Godzilla series. Visit our website at GodzillaVangelists.com. We're also on Twitter at GodzillaCast and Instagram at GodzillaVangelists. If you prefer to listen to us online, we have a YouTube channel. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you join us next episode. In the meantime, keep spreading the word of Godzilla.